doing sound tests like I do always. I have Skype open and ready to go. For the next 15 minutes, it's all going to be basically sound check audio. I have YouTube sounds good. I'm starting to actually give Beam a try to see if it works out. It's been working out for a little while on some of them, but I'm still waiting to see how it works. Working out for a little. Okay, so kick sounds good. Let me see here. Gotta refresh Rumble again. Or there we go. But Rumble sounds good. Next 15 minutes is all going to be basically sound check. X sounds good, but I have to post and start the broadcast, or create a broadcast, I should say. Alright, do live stream. Have to post and start the broadcast. Strange. Or create a broadcast, I should say. Okay, so we got that going. This is going to be Strange Stories. We'll be starting off from where we left off last week. I hope you guys enjoy. For now, what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to mute this out. I'm going to go get me some coffee, and then when I come back at the top of the hour, I will start the stream, get it going. And again, Beam is doing some weird stuff. Now with Beam, I haven't been able to simulcast on anything else. That's just the way it is. And when I started out, it always has like a real low kilobytes per second, so it does cause some issues there for the first part of it. But I've been noticing that as time goes by, it does straighten out some. It doesn't really do very much when it comes to keeping a good stream. But the rest of them seem to be holding at 30 frames per second. It's just that stream that seems to be the issue. Here lately, I've been using it with my multi-output on the OBS, and when I do that, it seems to cause seems to cause issues. Yeah, it just kind of gave went kaput on me. So let me see if I can stop the stream and start it back up. Now the weird part is this kick finally started up on its own, so that was a good thing. Start it up and see if it sets up and goes. It's a really contrary platform is what that's the best I can say about it. So I mean, it says that it's ready, but it's not kicking in. So all right, yeah, it's fine. Now today is going to be pretty good. I'm actually getting pretty excited about this. Kind of got a little carried away and wanted to hurry up to this topic for ancient mysteries. It was that good, so I finally had to put myself, give myself a little control, say no one thing at a time. So I'm going to stick to what I had planned for ancient mysteries, and I'll come back and do this again at a later time, because this is really a good topic. And yeah, well, I'd give it a shot. It didn't want to work on Beam, so maybe another day it'll work out. I'm not going to make any promises though. Yeah. I got 4 videos or 4 streams on there at least. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take my quick smoke break, come back, and get ready for the show. So, I should probably put an image in and let you guys listen to some music. Put in some interesting. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and go out and do my smoke, and I will come right back. So, I'll be back. Okay, I am back. Actually, I got 3 minutes. I can probably pull off going and getting me a cup of coffee real quick. I'm going to go get my coffee. I'll be right back, and then after that, I will go ahead and start the show. And I'll be right back. Okay, well that's not good. I got a drink of coffee and that's about it. So, okay, so let me go ahead and do my countdown and we will get on with the show. So, here we go. Let's see. 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Strange Stories. Last week we got into Mount Fuji, and as well as Mount Fuji I went and discussed the Suicide Forest. Then I told a couple of other stories that I wanted to go over. The Oran Bachi or Pucci or something like it. It was the Countess's Courtesan's Abyss is what it was. And this week, what I wanted to do was go further and go into the Kappa, discussing the Kappa. But before that, after I finished that show, I went back over some stuff concerning Mount Fuji, as well as the Suicide Forest, and I decided that I wanted to go back over some of it because the story behind Mount Fuji is actually pretty interesting. It actually runs a lot deeper than just what I said the other day. I wanted to cover some of that because it's just a fascinating story. It goes all the way back to to the beginning, basically. And this goes into a lot of stuff that's related to when Buddhism came to Japan, and even before Buddhism. That's something that I wanted to talk about, and there's going to also be some discussion on spirits and what the Japanese believed in. I don't know if they still do when it comes to the spirits in Japan. So before I get started, I do want to say that I am on Skype. If anybody wants to come in and be a part of the conversation, they're more than welcome to. We have a channel on Skype that you can come to. I have the information in the chat. If you guys want to click on the link there for Skype, you can come in if you want to. Also, if you're on Skype and you want to come in, you're more than welcome to. With that being said, if nobody does come in, I'm going to close off the call on Skype here in a little bit, and I can do it myself. I'm fine with doing that. So yeah, if you guys want to come in, though, you're more than welcome. Now, with that being said, I also want to mention something on the wonderful world of weirdness that I got a comment for in there, and they were asking what happened to the old footage that was on there before that I had to take off of the YouTube channel. I'll go over it again, even though this is Strange Stories, and I usually do it on WOW Talk, but I'll do it on here. But if you guys want to see that old footage, you can still see it at Odyssey. Go to Odyssey and look up The Wonderful World of Weirdness, and all of the old videos from before when John was running the channel is still there. The only problem is we had to take them off because of not copyright infringement, but because of Creative Commons and things of that nature when it comes to using other people's content. Apparently, with the videos, if you use another person's content, you have to alter it in some way with like some kind of conversation, or use it for, an example for what kind of discussion you're having. You can't just be like a ghost sighting. It has to have you talking on there before, or they can get in trouble for it. So the reason why I took all of that down was because we had a lot of it, and we were getting a lot of problems. We were having a lot of problems when it comes to YouTube. So that's one of the bad parts about it that I don't really enjoy talking about. But sometimes this happens in the comment sections where I have to leave a comment to them and let them know what happened, and I figured I would just share it again on the videos. That if you guys want to see the old ghost video sightings and the UFO sightings, they are still on Odyssey for anybody to view. Just go on there and type up The Wonderful World of Weirdness, and there they are. So with that being said, this is part 2 from where we left off last week. Long before Fujisan, known to the west as Mount Fuji, became an icon of Japan, it was considered a sacred entity by the ancient people. Legend has it that the mountain was born of divine fire erupting from the earth as a gift from the gods. It was said to connect the heavens and the earth, serving as a bridge for spirits to ascend and descend. The kami, which are spirits of Fujisan, were both revered and feared, embodying the mountain's unpredictable beauty and its devastating power. Fujisan was home to Konohana Sakuya Haim. I hope I said that right. The goddess of blossoms and the mountain itself. It symbolized both fertility and impermanence, embodying the delicate balance of life and death. Her story is one of devotion and tragedy. It is said that she descended to earth to marry a mortal prince, but when doubts about her fidelity arose, she immolated herself in a fiery ritual, proclaiming her innocence and giving birth to her children amidst the flames. This act tied her essence to Fujisan, where she became the guardian of its slopes and the arbiter of life cycles. Nestled at the base of Fujisan lies Okagara, the Sea of Trees. This dense forest is steeped in myth and mystery. According to folklore, the forest grew from the sorrow of those who sought refuge beneath the shadow of the sacred mountain. Over time, Okagara became a place where the living and the dead converged, a liminal space where the boundaries between worlds blurred. The forest's unnerving quietness is attributed to its volcanic soil, which absorbs sound and creates an eerie stillness. For centuries, Okagara has been associated with Yuri, which are restless spirits, particularly those of the lost and sorrowful. Most well-known spirits are said to be, the most well-known spirits are said to be the Ubasud, elderly women abandoned in the forest during times of famine, and the Munbataki, souls with no familial ties to perform rites for their peace. Now, right here, I wanted to get into the Yuri. The Yuri are part of the spirit pantheon that is known as the yokai, and well, that's how I pronounce it. It's the yokai, and I wanted to kind of explain what those are. Now, I was talking about the Kappa earlier, and the Kappa are part of the yokai as well, but as well as them, so are the Yuri. And before I go any further, I wanted to explain what they are. Now, the Yuri are ghosts of people who died with unresolved emotions, or like they died from violent deaths. They're often depicted like in white funeral garments with beheveled hair, like all messed up hair, okay? And the Yuri haunt specific places or people. And they're driven usually by revenge, sorrow, or attachment. They're always attached to something. Yuri are central to Japanese ghost stories, and they also have inspired a lot of cultural events like the Oban, where spirits are honored. So with that being said, I'll go further with it, but see, the Yuri are something that I thought would be important to kind of point out, because this goes into another story that I wanted to add to this, which I am going to add to it. The elderly women that I just mentioned that were abandoned is related to another mountain that's going to come up after this. I've been doing some research on this, and I found out that it's not just Mount Fuji and the Suicide Forest. This is linked to other areas in the Japan. I found one mountain so far that is like the stories of the Suicide Forest, but it's another mountain completely, and it involves the elderly and everything. So after I'm done with Fuji, I'm going to move on to that mountain and go into that, because that one's just as interesting. So Fujisan's presence looms large over Ukugahara, both physically and spiritually. The mountain is seen as a sacred place where the kami, I always have a hard time saying, kami reside, while Ukugahara is often perceived as a space where human suffering manifests. Now, this dichotomy creates a powerful dynamic. The majesty of Fujisan as a source of life and inspiration contrasts sharply with the despair associated with the forest. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the last episode too. The cave systems that are below the Suicide Forest that come from these volcanic veins of the mountain are pretty interesting. You have one that is actually a cave of wind, another one that is supposed to be a cave of ice. The mountain itself is fire, which dawned on me after the show last week, but the mountain itself is fire. It's volcanic fire. And then there's a third cave or a system that's there that is supposed to be with bats. Now, I don't know for sure exactly what the bats would represent, but I did want to mention that. Now, the eerie silence and everything from this forest, it resonates when it comes to like the texture or the ground itself. The ground is made out of volcanic rock, which is hard, and I mentioned it also before. where some of even modern day hand tools aren't able to cut through this stone. It's really, really strong. And that, with these caves that run under it that have wind running through them, is something else too. They say that moss is all over these caves, and the moss itself makes an atmosphere in the caves where you don't even hear echoes. So it's completely silent in these caves as well as in this forest. Now, there's a lot of beliefs that really believe that atmosphere has a lot to do with hauntings and spiritual presences and whatever you want to call them. So this is something that I did want to point out. What makes the plot thicken a little bit more for me isn't just only the forest itself, but it's like I dug deeper into it and I found out about these cave systems that are underneath it. And they're vein systems that go right up into Mount Fuji, and that makes it even more interesting to me because it's supposed to be considered a gateway between the heavens and earth, so it's just something to think about. For me, I found that very, very interesting, and the fact that Mount Fuji is a very, very spiritual place in Japan also stuck out to me as well. So now, with that being said, I will stop talking and I will continue to read. Now, some legends suggest that the kami of Fuji-san are indifferent to human sorrow. They are eternal, observing the cycles of life and death without intervention. Others believe that Konohana Sakuya Haim herself mourns for the loss in the forest, her tears nurturing the blossoms that bloom each spring. Now, I apologize if I'm messing these names up, so I do apologize about that. Now, in modern times, Lake Gahara has become infamous as a site for suicides, earning it the moniker Suicide Forest. This association is tied to cultural, historical, and spiritual factors. Japan's history of seppuku, ritual suicide, and its emphasis on honor and duty have contributed to the perception of suicide as a complex, albeit tragic, act. The forest's isolation and its symbolic connection to death make it a place where individuals feel drawn to end their suffering. Some bring tents and supplies, lingering for days before making their decision, while others leave behind notes or personal effects. Volunteers regularly comb the forest to retrieve remains, offering prayers for the deceased. From a spiritual standpoint, Oikugahara's association with death may stem from the energy of the place itself. Some believe the volcanic soil imbued with the power of Fujisan's eruptions retain a residual energy that amplifies emotions. Others attribute the forest's somber reputation to the accumulation of yurei, whose unresolved pain lingers in the dense woods. Now, this is where I wanted to actually stop and talk about the yurei, or the yokai, and I wanted to kind of go through some of these yokais so that you kind of get an idea of what they are. I've actually pulled up a list of them. Now, I was talking about the yurei, and I'm going to tell you some of the other ones that are involved. Now, these are yokai. And you have the tenju. Now, the tenjus are bird-like yokai with human and avian features. They often have long noses, red faces, and carry fans made of feathers or leaves. Now, Tengu are known as both protectors and tricksters. In some tales, they teach mortals martial arts or guard sacred forests. In others, they mislead travelers or cause chaos. Originally seen as a demonic, their image softened over the time to become protectors in Buddhist and Shinto temples. And Shinto is the original Japanese belief system before Buddhism came along. And then when Buddhism came along, they merged together. And the weird part about that is there was a little bit of restraint. You know, people did have their issues with the Buddhist ways, but there was no conflict. It just they kind of merged together, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I did want to point out. We had a pretty good conversation on my other stream last night called Minds Roundtable Weekend event, and that was one thing that we did discuss. So I figured that I'd bring it up here too about the Shinto and the Buddhist. Now after that we go to the Kitsune, and the Kitsunes are fox spirits, often depicted with multiple tails. Up to 9 of them actually. They gain more tails as they grow older and more powerful. Kitsune are shapeshifters, known to disguise themselves as humans. They can be benevolent, offering wisdom, or malevolent, playing tricks or causing harm. In Shinto belief, they are messengers of the god Inari and associated with rice, fertility, and prosperity. And then there's Yuki Onna, the beautiful woman dressed in white, representing the snow in winter. She is often pale with icy breath. Yuki Onna lures travelers into snowstorms, freezing them to death. In some tales, she spares kind or virtuous individuals. She embodies the harshness and beauty of winter and serves as a cautionary figure in folklore stories. Now, Rokubi is the next one. By day, they appear as normal humans, but at night their necks stretch to unnatural lengths. They use their elongated necks to spy, scare, or attack people. In some stories, they are unaware of their yokai nature, believing they are cursed. Rokubi reflect themes of hidden duality and the thin line between humanity and monstrosity. Now we come to the Kappa, or the Kappa. These are the entities that I'm going to be discussing here next. Now they're small turtle-like water creatures with a humanoid shape and a dish of water on their heads, which is the source of their strength. Mischievous and sometimes malevolent, Kappas are known for pulling people into water or stealing their shirikadama, a mythical organ. However, they can also be helpful if treated kindly. They are symbols of water safety. They are symbols of water safety and the dangers of rivers, often used to teach children caution. Now, this mythical organ is very interesting. I'll get into that, I believe, later on, but I just wanted to point out this Shirikadama. That's an interesting story. So now we come to the Napara Bo, a faceless humanoid yokai that looks like a normal person until their face vanishes. Napara Bo scare humans by revealing their black faces. They are generally harmless and enjoy causing fear. They represent the fear of losing individuality and identity. Then you have Jarogumo, a spider yokai that can transform into a beautiful woman. Yorogumo lures men into their web by appearing as an enchanted woman only to trap and devour them. She is a symbol of dangerous seduction and deceit. Then you have the Onai, large, fearsome ogres or demons with horns, sharp teeth, and red, blue, or green skin. They often carry spiked clubs. Onai are known for their immense strength and violent tendencies. They terrorize humans, but can also be protectors or guardians. Onai are used in festivals such as Setsuban, where people throw beans to drive them away and bring good fortune. Now you have Kashiki Warashi, a childlike spirit that inhabits homes. They are often invisible or appear as small boys or girls. Zashiki Warashi bring good fortune to the household they inhabit. If they leave, it is considered a bad omen. They represent prosperity and familial happiness. When I read about this one, it made me think of the opposite of what the black-eyed children would be, because I've been hearing a lot of people have conversations about the black-eyed children lately, and I've heard about them too. It's just here lately I've been hearing a lot about them, and when I read up on this, it just kind of made me think of them. So, except for the opposite, they're supposed to represent prosperity and familial happiness. Okay, so now we have the Nurari Hoyan. And this is a humanoid yokai with a large gourd-shaped head. Nurari Hoyan is known for sneaking into homes, acting like the owner, and eating or drinking as he pleases. He symbolizes intrusion and absurdity and the absurdity of uninvited guests. Interesting. So here we have the Uri, and the Uri, like I said before, I'll read it again. The Uri are ghosts of people who died with unresolved emotions or violent deaths. They are often depicted in white funeral garments with disheveled hair. Uri haunt specific places or people, driven by revenge, sorrow, or attachment. Uri are central to Japanese ghost stories and inspire cultural events like Oban, where spirits are honored. And then you have the Isuku Mogami. The Isuku Mogami. This one is household objects that gain sentience after 100 years of use. The Sukumogami can be mischievous, playful, or vengeful, depending on how they were treated by their owners. They emphasize respect for possessions and environmental mindfulness. I do find that one kind of interesting, that your plate could actually become sentient. I find that really, really kind of cool, actually. So now I could go over to refer to the kami, but I want to go on after going over the yokai, and go ahead and continue with the Buddhist priest. Now the Buddhist priest, when it comes to Fuji-san, the Buddhist priests often perform rituals to cleanse the forest when it comes to the suicide forest, and to guide the spirits to the afterlife. Now, despite these efforts, the atmosphere still remains heavy, as if the land itself mourns for those who pass through its shadowy paths. Now, Fujisan and Oikagaro encapsulates the duality of existence, creation and destruction, life and death, hope and despair. Fujisan's grandeur inspires awe and reverence, while Okigahara reminds us of the fragility of the human spirit. Together they form a narrative of balance, where the beauty of life is inseparable from the inevitability of death. Now, with that being said, I do want to move on to Mount Obasu. Now, Mount Obasu is something that I wanted to add into this instead of going the way I was wanting to do it last week. This is a very, very interesting mountain. Just as interesting, if not more interesting than Mount Fuji, to be honest with you. I just wanted to kind of go over this one and let you guys hear about it. So, Mount Obasuti, located in Nagano Prefecture, Japan, is steeped in legend and sorrowful tales of abandonment. Its name, translated to the mountain where the elderly are abandoned, is derived from the Abasut legend, a folklore narrative where families supposedly left their aging relatives to die in the wilderness during times of famine or hardship. Beyond its folklore significance, Mount Ubasut has become a focal point for eerie stories of hauntings, spectral sightings, and unexpected phenomena. The stories weave together historical anguish and supernatural lore, creating a chilling tapestry of the mountain's past and present. The Ubasu legend provides the foundation for Mount Abasut's haunting reputation. The tale speaks of elderly individuals who were carried to the mountain by their families and left to die either out of desperation or as an act of self-sacrifice. Though historians argue that Abasut was likely a symbolic tale rather than a widespread practice, the narrative encapsulates the human fear of abandonment and the weight of moral dilemmas during the times of extreme poverty. Now, when I hear that makes me want to say something that I said the other night with a couple of other people. But when I hear that, I have this I have this belief that Japan is in like this this huge state of denial where they want to deny that certain things took place in their past, and you see that too when it comes to things like in Canada. Canada does that with the skinwalkers when they talk about the Wendigo, okay, not the skinwalkers, but the Wendigo. The Wendigo's story rotates around human cannibalism, and they say the same thing. They say that this is some kind of metaphorical lesson to teach the people that this is bad, and they want to leave out the fact that in a lot of myths and a lot of folklores and a lot of religions, whatever you want to call it, there's a bit of truth to it, you know what I mean? So for me, in my thoughts, when it comes to like the Wendigo, at some point in the past, cannibalism had to have been a problem in order for them to even think of making up stories about the Wendigo in order to prevent people from committing cannibalism. Somebody had to have been participating in the act of cannibalism. And that's a good example for what I believe here, people just don't come out and say, you know what, we need to teach our people a lesson about respecting their elders and not abandoning them on a mountain. People just don't do that. For me, I would have to say that there, at some point in history, people were abandoning their elderly on top of this mountain or at the bottom of the mountain, wherever. And as time went by, it became a lesson for people to learn, maybe, you know. That's how I see it. And you hear that in a lot of different stories too when it comes to these myths. They want to make it out like these were noble lessons that were taught to people in order to do it. And besides that, as you'll hear when I read further on in this, these people not only believe this stuff, but they've been doing rituals and ceremonies at this mountain for quite a long time, you know. So you don't take a story that was made up to teach lessons to children or people and make it a ritual or ceremony performed at a mountain where it never happened. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's what I wanted to say when it comes to all that. That's something that really stuck out to me a lot right there. So let me go ahead and continue with this. And also before I do that, let me also mention that a lot of the things I'm discussing here are a lot of parts of Japanese folklore and myth and religious, spiritual beliefs, whatever, that people don't really want to discuss in Japan. All right, these are things that people really try to stay away from, and there is a lot of influence when it comes to a lot of popular movies that have been out, and they were inspired by these stories, you know, which I could probably come up with later on. I've been thinking about that too, you know. I wanted to make this more about scary places, but this series is called Strange Stories. It's not called The Scariest Places in Japan, you know, so I can most likely do that. I've been really thinking about that, and yeah, I might incorporate a lot more of this stuff into it, because a lot of this is very, very interesting. It's really good content. This is stuff that you're not going to hear all the time, or very much of, when it comes to Japan and the history of Japan and a lot of their beliefs. So, I mean, I'm actually getting kind of excited about it. From the stuff I've been reading, I've been wanting to actually incorporate it into my ancient mystery show that I have on here, which I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I wanted to do it, but I also was about to rush myself and leave the topics that I had going on right now and just start on this. And then I thought about it. I was like, no, just finish what you're doing and then go into this, you know. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue with this, because this really gets interesting. It's a good topic that I do need to actually get going. I need to really get into it. So now, the one thing that I have also been debating on is getting into the Abasud in the Moen Botaki. Now, the Oban festivals is one thing as well. To let everybody know what the Oban festivals are, I can kind of give you some information there. Now, the Oban festivals are also known as the Bon festivals, and it's one of Japan's most significant cultural and spiritual observances. Now, this is rooted in Buddhist traditions, It is a time when the families honored the spirits of their ancestors, who are believed to return to the earthly realm during this period. It's celebrated across Japan. Obon is a profound blend of religion, cultural, and familial connection, steeping in centuries-old rituals and beliefs. The origin of Obon traces back over 1,000 years before Buddhist practices introduced from China and India. The word Obon derives from the Sanskrit term alambana, meaning the hanging upside down, symbolizing the suffering of spirits trapped in purgatory. According to Buddhist scriptures, the festival originated from the story of Mokuren, a disciple of Buddha. Mokuren used his spiritual powers to see his deceased mother and discovered she was suffering in the realm of hungry ghosts due to her earthly misdeeds. Distressed, he sought Buddha's guidance, who instructed him to make offerings to monks at the end of their rainy season retreat. Through his act of devotion, Mokuren's mother was liberated, and he danced with joy. This dance of joy evolved into Boden Adorai, a central feature of Obon. Obon is both a spiritual and communal event. It embodies the belief that the spirits of the deceased ancestors return to their families during this time. It is a moment of reflection, gratitude, and familial bonds. The festival serves as a reminder of the impermanence of life, the interconnection of generations, and the importance of filial piety. That's a hard word. And that's in English. Okay, so in the weeks leading up to Obon, families clean and decorate their ancestors' graves, a practice called Ohaka Meri, or Mari. They clear weeds, wash tombstones, and leave offerings such as flowers, incense, and food. This act of care symbolizes respect and readiness to welcome the spirits. The festival begins with Makaibi, or welcome fires, lit at the entrance of homes or temples. These flames guide the spirits back to their earthly homes. Similarly, at the end of Obon, Okuribi, or farewell fires, are lit to send the spirits back to the afterlife. In some regions, floating lanterns, known as Toro Nagashi, are set adrift on rivers, symbolizing the spirit's journey back to the spiritual realm. One of the most iconic features of Obon is Obon Adori, a traditional folk dance performed in open space such as parks or temple grounds. Participants dressed in summer kimonos or yukata dance in circles around a raised platform called a yagura. The music and dance styles vary by region, but the themes often revolve around gratitude and the celebration of life. During Obon, households set up Butsudan, or Buddhist altars, or spirit altars, to honor their ancestors. These altars are adorned with offerings such as seasonal fruits, sweets, rice, and sake. Special vegetarian dishes called Shojin Ryori are prepared as they align with Buddhist principles of nonviolence. Families often visit temples to offer prayers and light incense for their ancestors. Monks may chant sutras and aid the spirit's peaceful return to the afterlife. Japan's diverse regions have their unique interpretation of Oban, each adding its local flavor to the festival. In Kyoto, Oban culminates with the Daimonji Gonzen Okuribi, a breathtaking event where giant bonfires in the shape of kanji characters are lit on mountains surrounding the city. These fires guide spirits back to the afterlife. Tokushima Prefecture is famous for its Awa Adori, a vibrant and energetic dance performed during Oban. Thousands of dancers in colorful costumes parade through the streets, accompanied by traditional instruments. In Nagasaki, families create elaborate floats resembling ships to carry their ancestors' spirits back to the afterlife. The event is accompanied by fireworks and festive music. In Okinawa, Oban is celebrated with the Aisa dance, a dynamic performance featuring taiko drums and colorful costumes. This dance is believed to entertain and send off the spirits. Oban is deeply tied to Japan's supernatural landscape. The belief in ancestral spirits and their in their interaction with the living is a cornerstone of the festival. It reflects Japan's syncretic religious practices, blending Shinto, Buddhism, and folk traditions. And I want to bring it up too that when I say syncretic during this topic, I'm talking about the blending of religions, folklore, spiritual practices. All of that gets blended in together, like the Shinto and the Buddhist blended in together in Japan. So you have a blend of both of them. So I do want to cover that and say that. Now, in Shinto, spirits, which are kami, are omnipresent, residing in nature, objects, and ancestors. Buddhism complements this belief by offering rituals to aid spirits in achieving enlightenment. Now, I believe I did cover the kami, didn't I? Yeah. Now, I can go over that here in a little bit, but here, let me go ahead and finish this up, and I can go ahead and go over the kami and let you guys hear that. Now, during Oban, the boundary between the living and the dead is believed to be thin, allowing spirits to return. This aligns with the concept of yurei or ghost in Japan folklore. Now, I've already discussed the yurei, right? And the yurei are often depicted in white funeral attire, symbolizing their connection to the spiritual world. So that's the reason why they are always wearing the white funeral garments and everything. Malevolent or restless spirits, lanterns, incense, and prayers are thought to protect against these entities. And this is where you start getting into the darker aspects of it. Which I kind of, if you haven't noticed with some of the posts I made, I kind of get into reading about the darker aspects of a lot of these spiritual stories. Basically, I don't even know what to say when it comes to that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and continue with the kami, and we can then continue talking about this mountain. And I hope this stuff actually is opening up a lot of information so that you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about when I go through it, So this is basically the kami. Now, kami are central to Shinto, the indigenous religion of Japan. They are spiritual beings or deities that inhabit the natural world, human creations, and even abstract concepts. Kami embody the essence of phenomena making them both immanent and transcendent in Japanese culture. The term kami does not directly translate to God in the Western sense. Instead, it refers to a wide range of sacred beings or forces. The word kami can be translated, or kami can be translated as divine being or spirit. In Japanese, the kanji character combines the elements for spirit or divinity and lightning or natural force, reflecting the connection between kami and natural awe-inspired power. Kami can be natural spirits representing mountains, rivers, trees, and other natural features. Ancestral spirits, honored deceased ancestors. Deified heroes, revered historical figures who have achieved divine status. Abstract forces, embodying ideas such as growth, fertility, or protection. Shinto recognizes countless kami, which are categorized into different types based on their role and domains. Nature kamis are tied to specific landscapes or natural phenomena. Examples include Amaterasu Imakami, the sun goddess, one of the central kami in Shinto. Then you have Fuji-san, which is what we just went over, which is Mount Fuji, and is considered a sacred site embodying its own kami. Now, Mitsuhanami, a kami associated with water sources. Now, after that, you have ancestral kami. Ancestral spirits are often venerated as protectors or of families or communities. Many households have altars where offerings are made to these spirits. Here we go with the Ujigami. These are guardian deities or of specific regions or clans. Local shrines often honor the Ujigami who watch over the community. These kami represents intangible concepts such as Hachiman, the kami of war and the protector of Japan. Then you have Ibisu, the kami of prosperity and fishermen. Shinto does not have a strict dogma or scriptures. Instead, its practices and beliefs are centered on maintaining harmony between humans, nature, and the kami, or kami. I just have a hard time with calling it kami, like communist, kami. But anyhow, the kami are not omnipotent or eternal. They are believed to influence human lives, and rituals are performed to honor and appease them. Their presence is invoked during significant life events, such as births, weddings, and harvest festivals. Shinto views the natural world as sacred, with kami inhabiting rocks, waterfalls, and forests. Shrines are often located in natural settings to facilitate this connection. Kami are not inherently good or evil. Instead, they respond to human action, maintaining purity and harmony as essential. Maintaining purity and harmony is essential to staying in favor with the kami. Shrines are sacred spaces dedicated to kami. Visitors cleanse themselves at a purification fountain, offering prayers and make offerings such as coins, sake, and rice. Matsuri are celebrations held to honor the kami. This event often involves processions, dances, and communal feasts. Examples include Gaian Matsuri, celebrating the kami of Yasaka, celebrating the Kami of Yasaka Shrine in Kyoto. Kanda Matsuri, a major festival in Tokyo honoring the Kami of Kanda Shrine. Offerings and rituals are performed to ensure the Kami's favor. Rituals may involve prayers, chants, and symbolic gestures, often conducted by Shinto priests. Shinto mythology, recorded in texts like the Kanjiki and Nihon Shoki, describes the origins of the Kami and their interaction with humans. The creation myth features Izanagi, and Izanami, the primordial Kami who gave birth to the Japanese islands and other deities. Their stories introduce themes of life, death, and purification. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, is considered the ancestor of Japan's imperial family. Her myth underscores the divine origin of the emperor's authority. Susanoo, the Kami of storms and the brother of Amaterasu, is known for his chaotic nature. His battle with other Kami highlights the balance between order and chaos. So that takes us back to where we need to be again. I wanted to read that stuff to kind of give you guys a background of everything that's being discussed here, you know what I mean? Now, I did want to go over those topics for that reason. Now, we have the Oban, but here we also get into the Abasut and other rituals that pertain to that. Now, the Abasut and the Matabasut is Japanese folklore, and now, Japanese folklore is rich with stories that reflect the complexities of human emotions, cultural practices, and moral dilemmas. Now, two significant and haunting elements of this tradition are the tales of Ubasut and Munbatoki, each embodying themes of abandonment, despair, and the spiritual consequences of social hardships. Ubasut, meaning abandoning an old woman, is a term rooted in one of Japan's darker folklore traditions. The tale describes a practice in which elderly individuals, often women, were taken to remote mountain locations and left to die. These stories typically arose during times of famine and extreme hardship, when resources were scarce and families could not afford to care for all their members. In its most famous version, the elderly were left on Mount Abasut, often referred to as Nagano Prefecture, or other remote areas, to die of exposure or starvation. The name of the mountain, Obasut Yama, translates to the mountain where the elderly are abandoned, cementing the tale's place in Japan's cultural consciousness. The origins of the Ubasut stories are ambiguous. While there is little concrete evidence to suggest that this practice was widespread, the tale likely emerged as a symbolic narrative reflecting societal fears and ethical dilemmas during the time of extreme poverty. And right there, that's where I come up with, like, it just doesn't happen that way. I don't believe so. I don't believe that these people came up with these ethical stories of morality because they wanted to prevent it from happening before it actually happened. In most cases, I would say that it was happening and they had to do something and come up with a story to stop people from doing it, you know what I mean? especially being around my parents. I've learned how they are too. Like at a certain age, they start feeling bad about themselves because they have to depend on other people. So just take and throw me in a ditch kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They have that attitude. So I could see that as being something that the elderly would probably voluntarily sacrifice themselves, but that's not the whole case either. It could be something else. So now the practice of kimakakushi, spiritual abduction, in the Shinto belief in the connection between humans and nature may have contributed to the Ubisute legend. The mountains were considered sacred places where kami spirits resided, and leaving an elderly person there could have been interpreted as returning them to the divine. The Ubisute tale is not just a story of cruelty, but also of sacrifice. In some versions, the elderly willingly go to the mountain to relieve their families of the burden, reflecting a deep ingrained sense of duty and selflessness within the Japanese culture. Now, the term Munbotiki translates to unconnected Buddhas and refers to the spirits of individuals who die without familial ties to care for their graves or perform the necessary rituals for their peace in the afterlife. These souls are considered muin, unconnected, unable to find rest, and thus wandering the physical and spiritual worlds. Munbotiki often appear in folklore as restless spirits, sometimes seeking vengeance or expressing sorrow for their neglect. Their stories are tied to Japan's deep-rooted belief in ancestor veneration, where the living are responsible for tending to the graves and the spirits of their ancestors. The concept of Munbotiki emerged from the Buddhist influence on Japanese culture. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of funeral rites and prayers to ensure the peaceful transition of the soul into the next life. Those who die without descendants or familial connections are thought to linger as ghosts or spirits unable to complete this journey. During Japan's feudal era, the rigid class system of frequent wars often left individuals without family ties, contributing to the proliferation of Munbotiki or Munbotiki. Historical records from the Heian period, or the Han period, which is between 794 to 1185, mention the Monmano, or unconnected things, which include abandoned graves and wandering spirits. In some cases, Moenbotaki were victims of social ostracism, such as criminals, outcasts, or individuals who died far from home. The absence of a proper burial or the neglect of their remains compounded their spiritual unrest, giving rise to tales of hauntings and curses. The Ubisute narrative has inspired various works of art, literature, and even theater in Japan. For example, the No play, Abasu, dramatized the tale of an elderly woman abandoned on a mountain, exploring themes of sacrifice and familial duty. In the Edo period, woodblock prints and poetry often depicted the somber image of an old woman gazing at the moon from the mountainside, symbolizing loneliness and resignation. Moenbotoki are central to certain Buddhist rituals in Japan, particularly the Sageki ceremony. Sageki, meaning feeding the hungry ghosts, involves offerings of food and prayer to appease wandering spirits and guide them towards peace. Temples and shrines often dedicate spaces to Moembotoki, where communal rituals are performed to honor these forgotten souls. The practice reflects a communal sense of responsibility for the dead, transcending familial ties. Both Ubasut and Munabotoki have strong ties to Japan's haunted landscapes, such as Oakagara, the Sea of Trees, or Suicide Forest. The forest's reputation as a place of abandonment and despair echoes the theme of Abasuti, while its association with restless spirits mirrors the tales of Munabotoki. So I wanted to cover that and all the stuff that I just went over, the kami and the yoki or yokai, however that's pronounced, all of that stuff before I continued with this story, because I think that it needed to be explored. The Hungry Ghost is another thing that I do want to get into, but at this point I believe that maybe I should add this to maybe Ancient Mysteries later on and kind of go through it, because there's a lot of Zen Buddhism that's associated with this, as well as their pagan beliefs and stuff like that. So I think maybe that would be perfect for that, or maybe I could also add it on to my my stories for Earth, another channel that I have going. But I am making plans to get deeper into that, because I think that's something that needs to be discussed. I've been hearing a lot of people on the internet lately talking about samsara, and I was discussing this last night as well with Jeffy, and I believe that maybe setting something up where I could do some streams discussing samsara would actually be beneficial, because a lot of people who discuss samsara, I don't feel as though they really have a true understanding of what samsara really is. I've heard people make mentions to escaping samsara. Well, I mean, if you're a Buddhist and you believe in samsara, or you believe in Buddhism, then there's no escaping it. The only way I personally feel that you could escape it is don't believe in Buddhism. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that we personally create our own hell, and when we die, if we have these strong beliefs in Buddhism or Christianity or whatever, those are going to create our afterlife. So if you have a fear of samsara and you're wanting to escape it, in my opinion, you should stop worshiping Buddha. I mean, it's that simple, you know what I mean? Because when you go, or you're counterproductive to the beliefs that you're worshiping, then you're going to suffer the consequences, in my opinion, of what that causes, so, and that's just my take, but, and I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about it. I've made no claims to being Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or Hindu, none of that. I've never made no claim to it, but I do respect a lot of the spiritual principles, and that's my take, my objective viewpoint of it is what I'm saying. So now, with that being said, I'm going to get on with this mountain. Now, according to local lore, the spirits of those abandoned at the mountain never found peace. Their anguish is said to linger, permeating the air and the land itself. Visitors of the mountains have reported strange phenomena, such as disembodied voices, cold drafts, and ghostly apparitions. These apparitions are often attributed to the restless spirits of the abandoned elderly, forever seeking solace in the afterlife. While Abatsu itself remains a debated practice, the tale of Mount Abatsu's hauntings have persisted for centuries. Local oral historians recount numerous encounters with the supernatural, often passed down through generations. One of the most enduring stories is that of a ghostly elderly woman who is said to wander the mountain paths. Clad in a tattered kimono, she appears to hikers and travelers, asking for water or food. Those who attempt to help her report feeling an overwhelming sense of sorrow, only to find her gone moments later. Locals believe this spirit is one of the many abandoned on the mountain, eternally reliving her final moments. Hikers on Mount Abasut often speak of hearing whispers carried by the wind, even when they are alone. These whispers, described as faint and indistinct, are said to resemble pleas for forgiveness or cries of despair. Some visitors claim the voices grow louder and deeper when one ventures into the forest areas of the mountain, creating an unsettling sense of being watched. In recent decades, Mount Abasut has become a site of interest for paranormal investigators and thrill seekers. Modern accounts of hauntings suggest that the mountain's spiritual energy remains potent, with numerous individuals reporting eerie encounters. One particularly chilling phenomenon is the appearance of a ghostly lantern, often seen floating along the mountain trails at night. Witnesses describe it as a faint, flickering light that moves with an unnatural rhythm. Those who follow the lantern report feeling disoriented, often losing their way and finding themselves in unfamiliar parts of the mountain. Some speculate that the lantern is carried by a spirit leading the living astray as a form of vengeance or as a cry for attention. Another widely reported phenomena is the sighting of a phantom procession. Visitors have described seeing a line of shadowy figures slowly making their way up the mountain, carrying what appears to be bundles of baskets. These figures vanish upon approach, leaving no trace behind. The procession is believed to symbolize the families who once carried their elderly relatives to the mountain, replaying the sorrowful act of perpetuity. Mount Abasut's haunting reputation has also influenced local spiritual practices. Temples and shrines in the region often hold ceremonies to honor the spirits of the abandoned, seeking to provide them with peace and closure. Abasut's rituals. Some Buddhist temples near the mountain conduct sagaki, feeding the hungry ghosts. Ceremonies offering prayers and food to appease restless spirits. These rituals aim to guide the wandering souls towards enlightenment, releasing them from their earthly anguish. In Shinto tradition, offerings are made to the kami, the spirits of the mountain, acknowledging their presence and seeking their protection. These practices reflect the belief that Mount Abasut is a liminal space where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin. Mount Abasut is often compared to Okigahara, which is the suicide forest, Japan's infamous suicide forest. Both locations share a reputation for being sites of despair and supernatural activity with deep cultural and spiritual significance. While Okigahara is associated with modern tragedies. Mount Ubasu's haunting tale stems from historical and folkloric roots. However, the themes of abandonment and unresolved anguish unite the two locations, making them poignant reminders of the human capacity for suffering. Both sites are believed to harbor strong spiritual energy, attracting those seeking solace or an escape from their struggles. This energy is said to amplify paranormal activity, drawing visitors with an interest in the supernatural. Today, Mount Ubasu's attracts visitors not only for its haunting reputation, but also for its breathtaking views and cultural significance. Pilgrims and tourists alike leave offerings at the mountain, paying their respect to the spirits and acknowledging the mountain's storied history. Now, I did not realize how much information I had there, so let me look at the COPPA and see how much information that I have there. Yeah, so what I can do is I can come back later and I can go through the COPPA and get that going, because that kind of that the COPPA doesn't really fit in with the story here. I'm also wanting to go over the Kayataki tunnel later on, which I can go over, but the COPPA really doesn't fit in with a lot of the stuff that I've covered tonight, so I don't really want to end this with talking about really good content and then ending it with the COPPA spirits, because they aren't really deep into a lot of this information that I've given. So this would probably be the best time for me to end this, because it would be the perfect time to end the stream, and then I can come back and do that on a different stream, and it would make it sound a lot better. So with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy. I will check the stream to see if anybody has made any comments, which usually nobody does, but I still like to go through and say or see if they did, and tell everybody hi. So I do have a comment from Koopa High. He says, "What it do, fam?" And I say, "What it do, bro?" And thanks for making a comment in the chat. And other than that, no, we don't have anything else that needs to be shared. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and thank you guys again for watching. If you have any comments, make some comments in the comment section. I really love to have conversations about this stuff, so I'd appreciate it if you did it. And with that, thank you for watching, and good night.